Gameranx presents another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight up gameplay and my thoughts on the latest games releasing. And as usual, it's me, your old pal Jake Baldito, and today we're talking about Cuphead. This game has been quite a few years in the making. The first time it popped up on YouTube, people freaked out over just how different it looked, and eventually the game was picked up as a Microsoft and PC exclusive. And now, after delays, it's finally here. You play as Cuphead and his pal Mugman in a cartoon world on a quest to beat some of the devil's debtors in order to save your own souls after a bad deal with the devil. It's a little weirder and darker than you'd expect, but it'll surprise you. Now, if you can't tell, obviously the visuals are the main event here. I mean, look at this game. But I'll get to that in a sec, because the gameplay here might actually surprise you. You blast your way through levels and boss fights with only being able to take 3 hits yourself, and you probably heard it by now, but the game is really hard. It's deceptively challenging. Yeah, sure, it looks like a cool baby game, but it'll knock you on your ass. It's all about trial and error, you know, repetition, memorizing the levels, understanding the enemy's attack patterns, and essentially just nailing a close to perfect run to succeed. It's surprisingly more like Contra than you'd expect. Despite this cutesy characters and stuff, it's run and gun and boss rush gameplay, straight up. There are linear 2D levels where you fight off enemies in an attempt to reach the end. There's aerial shoot-'em-up levels, and most importantly, lots and lots of really good boss battles. These are the main focus of the game and what you're going to be doing the majority of the time. Enemies have multiple stages and transformations, and every single one is like an absolute treat. Every time they do something different, it just looks cool. While some of these bosses might piss you off and you'll think it's bullshit, the game does a good job of crushing you while feeling fair, forcing you to learn and become a perfectionist. So in that way, when you do pull off beating a large boss that takes up the whole screen, you get the rush of a sense of accomplishment, and that's really the reason why the main hook of the game works so freaking well. While I appreciate the variety of level types, I didn't really enjoy the linear levels as much. While I love the way they felt like a race against time and death, the inclusion of them just felt a little bit more phoned in and just a bit meh and kind of paled in comparison to all the awesome boss battles. Gameplay wise, you can shoot, you can charge up your stored energy and use a charged blast, you have a dash button as well as a parry counter that has varying uses against like glowing pink objects in the world. Parrying and bouncing between these objects and jumping and dashing, it can give levels almost like a cool rhythm to it, which means that when it works and when you're in it, it feels really good. Cuphead also gives you a surprising amount of tools to use at your disposal. You'll wander around this like world map to find new zones and areas to fight bosses, and it's here you can find different ways to earn coins and to spend, most importantly, at shops to buy upgrades for your character. Since you can swap between 2 weapon types on the fly while you're playing, you can buy new weapons to equip, like more powerful blasts, long-range weapons, a spread, and they all have their specific uses. Now, if you can't tell, the visuals are probably the main draw of the game, but with the gameplay to back it up, it's definitely not a bad thing. These are like lovingly hand-drawn, cel-animated characters and enemies built completely from the ground up. The enemies take up really big portions of the screen and always have tons of crazy attack patterns and weird facial expressions and just look more alive than stuff I've seen in other games recently. The level backgrounds are watercolor art, and the way things come alive in the foreground reminds me so much of like some of my old favorite cartoons. It just all manages to be like extremely old school, but still a bit weird and edgy at the same time. It's like a perfect balance, and I really do like it. Also, the music really matches the old-timey visuals, and it's just as ambitious though. It's all orchestrated and big band stuff, which meshes really well with the gameplay, but most importantly, it's actually really catchy music. I keep finding myself like humming some of the songs to myself like a weird crazy person. Now, back to the gameplay. This is a weird complaint, but because the visuals and presentation are so amazing and all that, the challenge is going to be a turnoff to some. While you can choose between simple and regular battles, people aren't going to want to hear this, but I wish there was an easier mode for younger players or those who just kind of want to enjoy seeing the work put into this game. But on the contrary, I do also think this is very much like a get good gamers game, and I think it's better for that, but I just wish there were some more options. But one option I do really like is the drop-in co-op, which works fantastically. The screen gets a little busy sometimes, and you may lose your bearings occasionally, but it's great, and for me, almost the preferred way to play, because sometimes you're going to need the help. It's completely couch co-op, though. I really hope they add online co-op, because some of us don't really have nearby friends, and it just feels like, honestly, a bad omission. But I will say, though, as a couch co-op mode, this is the most fun I've had sharing a screen with a friend next to me in a really long time. And I do got to acknowledge it is also a total bummer for some folks that this is an Xbox exclusive, but thankfully, at the very least, it's also on Windows and on Steam and can run on some lower end stuff. Also, I will always say having that Xbox Play Anywhere feature is pretty nice, so points for that. So overall, I'll say Cuphead has a few missing parts, but you'll find yourself putting at least 7 hours or so of fun into it unless you're like a god and you could beat the game really quickly. With the really satisfying challenge and shockingly fun couch co-op, for me, it's one of the better $20 gaming experiences you can find right now. I'm really glad Cuphead turned out to be pretty good. But of course, that's just me. You know how Before You Buy works. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, but now I want to know how you guys are feeling on this game. Maybe if you're an Xbox player, you picked it up, or maybe you're playing it on your computer. I want to hear how you guys feel. If you've been playing it alone, I want to hear how you're doing with the difficulty. I'm sure some of you guys are just going to say you're the best at the game ever, but hey, nobody's perfect. But I do want to hear what you guys are thinking about this game, whether you're playing it or if you're on the outside looking in. Let's talk. If you got any other questions for me, I'll be down in the comments, but I'll also be, as always, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jake Baldino as well. But you guys know the deal. Clicking the like button does help me out. It lets me do more Before You Buys over here, and clicking the subscribe button is good if you haven't, because we put out stuff every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.